Now we can create and add and edit form component within our React.js application, whereby we can create a product form.js, which is going to be able to enable us to add and update a product. So let's begin. So here we have on the source folder here, I want you to come here and create product form.js like that. And once we have that created, we can now begin. So here first I'm going to have these parts here, which we already did them. And then here I'm going to have an Axios instance for API calls. In other words, I'm going to have something like this. Here I'm going to have use params like that. And then next we're going to have is use navigate like that. And then the use params is going to be that way. So here we're going to use from React router DOM like that. So they are coming from the React router DOM like that. Now here we're going to have a function, and then the function here is going to be const, and then we're going to have const product form, and this should be caps as well. So we're going to have const product form, and then this is going to be equal to, it's going to be that way. And then here what we're going to do here, we're going to have const and then form data, and then you're going to have set form data. So we're going to define that to the current state variable and the function, which is going to be, so this form data is going to hold the form values within our application. Then of course you're going to pass it through useState. So here we'll have this. So the first one is going to be, so what you're going to do here, we are going to, as we have said, the form data state, which is this one here, is going to hold the values. So these values here, we're going to set them into empty strings. We're also going to do the same thing for description, which is going to be that way, and then here is going to be empty, and then here we're going to have price, which is going to be that way, and then that's what we have there. Now next we're going to have a state form for validating our errors. So here we are going to have const, and then here we'll have errors, and then here I'm going to have set errors like that, and then this is going to be equal to use state, which is this one there, and then we're going to have it that way. So this one is going to store the form validation errors, and of course you know the validation errors we are talking about. This one should be this way, should be that way. And then once we identify our errors, we are going to retrieve an ID from the URL. Now here we're going to have something like this. So after that one, we'll have this. So here we'll have an ID which you're going to pass, and then of course the use params is now going to be used on this part here. So the use params here, what we are doing here is that we're going to retrieve the ID from the URL if it exists for editing existing products. Remember, this product form.js is for adding as well as editing our given product. So this ID here is for us to grab the ID of that given product, so that if the ID of the product exists, then we can edit our form respectively. So there we can have const, next const navigate, which is equal to const and then navigate like that. Then this one is going to, so this is a navigate hook which is going to enable us to be redirected after form submission. So once we get to submit the form, then we redirect the form to whichever place we want to. That is the user if he gets to submit the form. Now next we're going to have an use effect, and this use effect we are going to have it this way. So here we'll have it like that. So what you're going to have here is we're going to say if ID, and here we're going to pass the ID. In other words, here we want to check if ID is present, then fetch the product that we want to edit when the component will mount. So that is what we need. We are saying there. So that here we have our axios, and we're going to call the get method, and then here I use the backtick, and then here I'm going to append the products like that, and then here we have, which is the ID like that, and then down there we have dot then, which you're going to pass the response. So this is going to be set form data. In other words, here we are going to populate the form with the fetched data, so that now we can edit our given form like that. So this is what we have there, and so we populate the form with the form data, and then that is when we return the response dot data. Right, so that's what we have there, and then here we can have dot catch, which is going to, we're going to pass the error, and then here we pass the console dot error like this. So that is what we have. So dot error, and then here we're going to have error. So this one is caps fetching the product, and then this one is going to be that way, and then here we pass our given error like that. So here we have it that way, and then here we can so here we close this one like that, and then here we get to have this one, and then here pass that, so that now here we can append a dependency, and this dependency is going to be the ID. And I believe now you understand what we are doing here. So here we mean that depend on ID. So this effect, the effect hook is going to rerun if the ID is going to change. So whenever the ID changes, here this use effect is going to rerun each time the ID changes. Of course, when we are clicking to edit a given product. So I believe that one is well understood. Right, so once we do that, we can have another function here, which is going to undo, and I believe we have talked about this one in the crash course. So undo input change like this, which is equal to, we pass the event, and then here we have, is what we have. So inside there we're going to have const name, and then here we're going to have value, which is equal to event dot target like that, and then here we're going to have set form data to be, so here we're going to have set form data like that, and then here we're going to pass name, and then a value like that. Let's give this one a space. So what we are doing here is that we want to update the form data state with the input values. So whenever the input values, that is, we update the form data state when the input value changes. So that is the idea behind here. So when the input value changes, we are going to update our state form variable, which is now the form data that we have here, and this is the one here. So whenever an input values changes, then we update our form data. Now once we do that, we can have set errors here. Remember, we defined set errors here, and this set errors here, where do we have it? This is the one here, which is now going to clear our errors. So we are going to have it here, and then here we're going to have this 3, And then here, what we're going to do here is pass name, which is within this. So we have this empty strings like that. And then, so what this part will do here is to clear any errors for the current input. So we're going to clear any errors that you're going to find within our given form. And then here we can validate the form inputs before we submit our form. So here we can define a function which is going to do that. So validate form, which is equal to here, and then here we're going to define this variable, which is let temp and then errors like this. And then here we're going to say so this one is going to take in the errors that you're going to have. So here we're going to say if, and then form, if form data dot name. So let's start with the dot name here, dot name, and then here we have temp errors dot name is equal to, then you're going to say name is required like that. And then next we're also going to do for if it's not equal to form data, then dot description like that. So dot description, you're also going to do the same. We're going to have temp errors, and then here this is temp errors dot description, which is equal to description is required as well. So we close that one. We also do the same thing for the price, because we only have 3 items. So here we're going to do price, and then here we're going to have price like that. So here you're going to say price is required. Right, so price is required, and then we close that one. So down here we are going to call the set errors, and then here we're going to update our current state variable with the temp errors that we're going to get here. In other words, here we want to pass what errors are they. Now here we're going to have another line of code here, which is going to say return object, and then object dot keys, and then here we're going to pass the temp errors, and then here dot length. I remember doing this one in Vue.js. So somebody who has done that, who has watched that tutorial, this is be able to understand here, because here we return true if there is no error, because here we are saying object.keys, which is a JavaScript function, which of course is going to check if we have any errors. So if it's equal to 0, then it means that it is going to return true because there are no errors within our form. Now, once we do that, we can handle the form submission for both adding and updating the product. So after this code here, let's create another function here, which is going to handle, we're going to call it handle submit, which is equals to async. We did async, second one like that. And then here we are going to pass the event, which is going to be this way. So here we're going to have event dot prevent default like that. So prevent, I'm sure you already know what we mean here. Here we prevent the default submission of the form, and then here we are going to have an if statement, which we are going to say if, that is validate form. We are going to validate the form, and then we are going to return this. So what we are saying here is validate the form and prevent submission if the validation form fails. So that is what we mean there, so that we return whatever we are going to get here. So here we're going to have retry, and then the try here we're going to have if, and then we're going to pass the ID, whereby we're going to say here if ID is present, then submit the form data as an update to an existing product. So to do that, we're going to have await, and then here we're going to have axios dot input, and then here we're going to have the backticks, and then here we're going to pass the product, and then slash the dollar sign, then here we pass the ID of our given product. So here we're going to have that one, and then here we're going to pass the form data. So what we are saying here is that if the ID is present, submit the form data as an update to our existing product that we have within our given application. Or else, if that is not the case, then here we're going to have an statement here, whereby we're going to say if there's no ID, then you're going to submit the form data as a new product. So here we have await, then axios post, and then here we're going to have product, and then it is that way, and then here we pass the form data like that. And then once we do that, we are now going to redirect the product list view after a successful submission, whereby we're going to say navigate, and then here we're going to pass this to our home page, and then down here we can catch if there are any errors within this given application here. So for example, if there are any errors here, we're going to have error, and then here we are going to have console, which is going to be console.error, and then here we're going to say error submitting form, like that, and then here we close it that way. Here we're going to pass that error that we're going to get. So here I'm going to close this one that way, and then once I have this one, we're going to have now let's render the form product within our given application here. So what I'm going to do here is here I'm going to have a return statement. So we're going to have this, and then here I'll have form on submit, and then here we are going to call, it's not that one, but submit, like that. So this is the one that we are calling, and then here we're going to have label, which is going to be that way, and this label is going to be name. So once it is name here, actually this needs to be, you're going to inside it, you're going to have an input type, which is input type, which is equals to text, and then name, which is equal to name. Then value here we're going to have this, which is equal to form data dot name. Sorry, this is data dot name. And then here this is on change, which is equal to, it's going to be equal to what? It's going to be equal to handle input change. Now, what are we doing here? What we are doing here is that we are just we are now creating a form for the user, and the user he types, for example, the name of a product. When of course is adding a product, we are going to detect that input change. We are now passing the input change because remember this is a function that we created here, and we say that this one is there to detect the input changes within our given application, and then it's going to update our current state variable, that is the form data, with the data that is going to be filled by the user. So that is what we are doing there. And then here we have required. So here we're going to have required, and then let's close that like that. Now, once you do that one, we also have another part here, which is we're going to call it. In other words, remember we have this part here. So this part here is checking if there is any errors within our form here, and then now it's going to flash them to our user in case, for example, he tries to submit the form without maybe filling the name and so forth. So that's what we have here. So and then div, going to have a div there. Div is going to have class name, which is going to be error, and this is just for styling our given form. So here we're going to have errors dot name like that, and we are done with that label there. So what I can do here is copy this label and paste it there, and this is now going to be description. So I'm going to have description, and then the input type text. So name here is going to be name is going to be description, and then this one is not going to be text. It's not going to be input type text. It's going to be text area like that, and then text area. It's going to be text area. So text area, and then it's going to be text area and then name like that. Right. So this is going to be form.description under input change required like that, and then here we're going to have dot description, and then here we're going to have like that. So that one is going to handle the description part of our application. We can also do the same thing, and we can also do the same thing for our price, which is going to be this way. So I'm also going to copy that one, paste it there. This is going to be price. The input type is text. Sorry, not text, but the input type is going to be number. It's going to be number. Name is going to be price. Form data is going to be form.price. Handle input change required, then this is going to be price like that. So here we're going to have our price like that. So you're going to have price, and then lastly here, what you're going to have here is, now we're going to have a button here, which is going to be button type, which is going to be equal to submit. So submit, so this is submit, and then here we're going to have so this is going to be submit button, and then of course we close our form. And what we need to have here within our React, need to have that one that way, and then here we're going to have export default, which is now the product form like that. So this is what we have so far within our form. Now let me just recap this again so that we can be able to understand what is happening within our given product form component. So the first thing we do here, we just have the form, we just have the normal imports that we already understand there. Then the next one, we have the use param and use navigate. Use navigate is used when we want to redirect our form. After a successful submission, we'll just redirect it to maybe the home page and so forth. The use params here is the one that we're using it on the ID here. And so we're using it here, and what we're saying here is that we want what we're doing here is that we want to retrieve the ID from the URL if a particular URL, a particular ID exists from a particular URL, and then we can edit that given existing product within our form. So that is what we are doing there. And then of course the product, this function here is, we have defined a function product form, and then it has this use state hook, whereby we are setting these values to empty string so that we can receive the given data that is going to be inputted by the user. Then we have the const errors here just to check the errors that we have within our form. What else do we have? The use effect hook. Here we said we can use effect when we want to fetch an API, and this is what we are doing. We are fetching an API if the ID of that given product exists. So if the ID is present, we fetch the product when the component mounts. Here we are setting a dependency, which is ID, which is going to enable the use effect. In other words, the use effect is going to rerun based on the if the ID is going to change, and that's what we are doing there. And then we also have other functions such as undo input change, which here is going to update the form data state when the input value is going to change. Of course, it is when the user tries to type something there. We have another function here which is responsible for handling in other words, it's there to validate the form inputs before we submit our data. So that part does that. And then here lastly we have the undo submit, which is going to undo the form submission for both adding and updating our product. So here, for example, we want to check, are we updating our given product here, because put is used when we want to update, or else are we now adding a product, because when we run this one, of course, this one is going to, so whatever is going to happen is going to update our current state form data here with the, if of course we are trying to add the given product. Actually, we are trying to come here and try to update a given product, let's say a product with ID 1, like that, using the input HTTP request. And then of course here we now create our form here, whereby we are now going to submit it through the undo submit, and then of course we are now going to undo the input change. Of course the functions are there, we have defined them, and then here we have this part which is going to check if there are errors, and then if there are any errors, then this part here is going to be called, because remember we have the form data.name, form data.description, and so forth. Right, so that is what we have there. And so what else do we need? So we can modify our product list to include our edit links. So for example, we have now made the edit link. So here we can come here, and then here we can modify our product. So here what we're going to do here is, you see where we have this one, product.price. Actually this one should not be an H3, this one should be paragraph. So you can change that one. Now here, just beneath where we have the product price, here we're going to have a link. We're going to have link, and then we're going to have link to, which is equal to, going to have this 2, and then you're going to have a backtick there, and then we're going to say edit, and then slash the $sign like this, and then here we're going to pass the product ID. So this is going to be product.id like that, and then here we're going to have, so once you're done with that one, we're going to have edit like that. Now once we run this is going to have, of course the error is expected, because here we need to import this. So here we just need to come here and import so here we import link like that from React. Sorry, this is React like that. So we need to have it that way. I believe that error should go, right? So that is what you need to do there. Now once we are done with that one, we can update our app.js. So here we can come here and update our app.js. And of course, here, the first thing we're going to update here is, let's first update the route here. So we're going to have 2 routes here, one for adding and then the other one for editing. So let me just try to copy this one, and then here I'll update this one. So here I'll have /add, which is element, and then this is now going to product form like that, which is now going to import this part here. And then what else do we need there? So we also need the other one, which is for editing our product. So here we're going to have, then here we're going to append this ID like that. And then the element here is going to go to our product form, because that's where we added the edit link like that. So we're going to have that one that way, right? So that is what we have. I believe there is nothing else that we need to add there. So once you have that one created, now we can come and our product, and you can see here now what we have here is, this is the edit that we are adding here. So we can try to click this one, and you can see here we are able to obtain the different product items here. So what we can do here, for example, we can just try to put 11, and then we need to have something here. So we need to have, so what we have in here, I'm noticing we have this one, and as we look into our given application here, is that when you go to product form, this should be, so there should be submit here. So I forgot this one. So you should have submit like that. Submit, because we are using the button type submit. Yeah, so that should be. So let's try to change this one to 11, and then let's submit this one, and you can see now it has changed successfully. We are navigated back to this product list. Right, so let's continue on the next one, whereby we now will be looking at the nav bar within our given application.